Professor Lam is a little tied up right now. He will join us shortly. Uh, in an effort to speed up things and to start on time, let us start the session in the meantime. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's first PRE International Symposium of Ophthalmology Professorial Lecture. My name is Dr. Nishant. Our symposium will consist of two scientific sessions, and in between, we will have a special adjunct professor appointment. To begin, I would like to introduce our moderator for the scientific session 1, Professor Frank Martin. He's the clinical professor, the University of Sydney, and the president of Asia Pacific Strabismus and Pediatric Ophthalmology Society, APSPOS. I'm glad to have a chance to co-chair this session 1 with him. Please join me in welcoming Professor Frank Martin, and let's proceed with our first presentation. Professor Frank Martin, please. You can be here. Just one small request. Please keep your phones on silent mode. We have a stellar cast here today who are going to give some really wonderful talks. So our first speaker is Professor Neil Bressler, the James P. Gills Professor of Ophthalmology at Johns Hopkins University, and he's also the editor-in-chief of JAMA Ophthalmology. He will speak on potential role of AI in the peer-reviewed medical literature enterprise. Please welcome Professor Neil Bressler.
Thank you. Thank you again. I'd like to combine all that we're thinking about with AI with something that's very important in the biomedical literature, and that is peer review. These are my financial and other disclosures, and I'm wearing my JAMA Ophthalmology Editor-in-Chief hat to discuss this today. AI first came into the biomedical literature from Google and Moorfields when this article was published in December 2016, 10 years ago. And what they reported was that you could use this AI approach and deep convolutional neural networking in order to validate and then test looking at a fundus photograph and having a machine tell us what's the level of diabetic retinopathy. Tian Wang wrote an editorial with me in JAMA so that we could share how we thought that this was likely going to be a very important example of ways of leveraging this sort of computer algorithm in medicine. And I need not tell you how true Tian's prediction was. This has been viewed almost 500,000 times, cited 4,400 times, because it's just a very important part of starting the biomedical literature. What I want to discuss in just a few minutes here is, what are we now thinking about using AI in the peer-reviewed medical literature process? A lot of this is summarized in an editorial that we wrote about 4 months ago in JAMA. This was first authored by Roy Perlis. Roy is the editor-in-chief of a super channel for JAMA. Super channels are where we don't start a separate journal. For example, JAMA Surgery is a separate journal, JAMA Pediatrics, JAMA Ophthalmology. Those are all separate, distinct journals. But if we have a topic that goes across all journals, that's a very important theme, then we create a super channel that can curate and collect items such as AI as it affects JAMA internal medicine, as it affects JAMA psychiatry, as it affects JAMA ophthalmology. And so as part of this super channel, this article was written about the audacity, perhaps, of using AI to do peer review. So I urge you to take a look at this because it's probably a very important thought process of what people are going to do in terms of using AI in peer review. There are a lot of complaints about people very worried about using AI for peer review. Some people worry about confidentiality because the confidentiality policy of most journals, including JAMA and the JAMA network of journals, prohibits taking any part of a manuscript that you're given for review and putting it into a chatbot or a publicly available language model or similar tool. Even if you put it in a privately controlled server, let's say you're at Stanford University and you say, I have my own AI server. Nobody has access to that. Well, that's not true. Everyone at Stanford has access to it, and the server has access to that. So if you upload confidential information like a manuscript that's not yet published, that AI tool may then use that information and share it in subsequent queries or other information that the algorithm is using. So we ask each person when they do a review, please don't do that. And then we purposely say, did you use a chatbot language model or a similar tool as a resource during the review? And if yes, tell us how you used it. Maybe you used it because you looked up, what does peer-reviewed literature mean? And you got some summary, and we want you to tell us that, because that means you didn't upload the manuscript, you just used AI to help educate yourself, and that's important. And common uses that might be accepted are improving language or grammar or checking the methods, for I don't understand what this person means by, Bayesian analyses, and you could look that up as well, or just checking for something that might be similar in that regard. We've looked at the various journals to see what their policies are about using AI in peer review, and this is a rapidly changing process. We keep updating this table that we use internally, but this just shows you that some are very conservative. They say absolutely zero use of AI for anything in peer review. And others, like JAMA and Nature, are moderately conservative. They say you could potentially use it. Here are some prohibitions, and here are some reasons you might use it, but you must explain and you must tell us that. And then there are groups like NEJM AI. This is an outsourcing of NEJM to look at their AI articles, and the British Medical Journal. And they're quite liberal that, use it however you want. This is going to help everything. We want to move rapidly as to what we're doing. So what's going on right now? Well, we're not using it to make any editorial decisions right now. That's just not judged to be proven to be of any benefit so far. So we use it within closed server systems so that nobody has access except the JAMA editors, everyone who has the confidential agreement to use that. And we use the automation to check for duplicate or highly similar manuscripts that we may have gotten submitted. It's not looking to the whole world. We use it to perhaps recommend peer reviewers within our data set. Sometimes peer reviewers tell us what they're expert at, but sometimes they don't. And this is a way internally of being able to reach out to all our peer reviewers using this AI algorithms that we have to say, within our own data set that no one else would have, how might we use it? And we use it to validate references and do technical checking of the manuscript. But that's really not AI. That's more programming and automation. So we're actually using AI to take a completed manuscript that we're going to publish, and we'll put it in there and say, try to explain this to us in very clear language that we could use for the lay public. Maybe we can use that for a public report, or we could use it for putting out on WeChat. What's a quick way of doing it? But that's just to give us a draft. We then have a human being look at that, maybe to create a social media post. Again, not for the final copy, but as a draft to get us going. So each process involves some human review and some human oversight. We might use it in the future, perhaps, to check if the person complied with all the instructions to author. Did they perhaps miss some reporting guideline in a consort checklist? We can compare the data in the abstract. It might have said 30% lost 3 or more lines of vision, but maybe in the paper they wrote that 70% avoided a 3-line loss. Well, the AI might flag that as a discrepancy, but actually it's the correct thing. And so you need a human being to look at that, but it might help us pick up, do the tables reflect what's in the abstract, reflect what's in the results, reflect what's in the supplementary materials? Now, we need to test and see how many false positives we get when we're using AI to do this, flag for inconsistencies. We need to monitor for false negatives. Does it ignore errors that it may not have been trained on, but we would have found if we had read it ourselves as human beings? Will the performance likely improve over time? I think so. And it's imperfect. Plagiarism checking is imperfect right now. And so we have to recognize that this will be imperfect if we use it. What are we dreaming about? We'd like it to create figures for us. We'd like it to say, take the data and give us a figure that summarizes and gives us the most important findings of that paper. Maybe the authors thought of that, but maybe they didn't. So we'd like to see if we can help them do that. Could it be used to assess novelty or provide key insights or even estimate the clinical importance? I don't know, but we're going to test it. We're going to find out, and we'll give you that information over the next few years. So thank you for letting me share that important, I think, information of where we're going with AI, in this case, not to treat diseases, not to monitor, not to screen, but to do peer review. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Bressler.